It's a fantastic musical, mechanical companion. You've got that thrumbling rumble like a Second World War bomber.
Welcome to this week's Ride with Nick, where we are going decidedly retro. We'll come around here to the front, where we have this very narrow 190/19 tyre, which is sitting on a 19-inch wire rim. This whole front end here is lifted directly from the T120 Bonneville, so we've got 41mm conventional forks. We've got nothing on this side. Over here we have a 310mm disc, and this is gripping a twin piston Nissan caliper. This bike does have ABS, so it's got LED indicators, ABS. There's a degree of a nod towards modern technology, but generally the whole thing looks beautifully authentic. Triumph badge on the front there, but it's a halogen light, it's not an LED light. And I must say, this mudguard looks very familiar. I wonder if any of you can decide where I've seen this before. All of these touches of authenticity give this bike a very period feel. We've got the flat bars, flat tracker. We're back to these dreaded bar end mirrors, but at least these have a degree of solidity and substance to them. They're factory build, they've got adjustment. Hopefully I will have no issues with these. We've got a 9.1 litre fuel tank, which they reckon is good for 136 mile range, because we are claiming 69 miles per gallon, which is phenomenal for this bike. 100-mile range, probably as much as you need before you get off of this super low 690mm seat height. It's very accessible, very low to the ground. Most people, I imagine, would not find this particular bike a struggle. The modern electronics allow us access to fly-by-wire throttle, which in turn gives quite a simple looking instrument cluster, a degree of complication with two riding modes, rain and road. More than enough. So we're going to come around and have a look at the meat of what makes this motorcycle what it is, and that is essentially more Triumph T120 Bonneville in the shape of this tubular twin steel cradle frame. So we've got this classic liquid-cooled 1200cc single overhead cam 8-valve parallel twin engine, lifted directly again from the Bonneville T120, complete with fake carburetors, fake air cooling fins, because obviously it's a liquid cooled bike with a big radiator stuck on the front there. We've got all of the classic touches that make the Bonneville what it is, but in this particular state of tune, it's a Bonneville power output, 76 horsepower, 106 Newton meters of torque. Almost it's got more pull than it has power, and it's a Bonneville power output, but in a bobber state of tune. So that's been, it's got the torque lower down in the rev range. Very nice little touches on this bike. We've got the key mounted on the right-hand side. We've got the classic 2x2 exhaust sweeping back to the rear end of the bike, which gives this bike its very distinctive look. The reason it's a bobber is because of this floating seat and the hard tail look as if it's been chopped, but of course it's not. Tucked right in there, out of sight from the naked eye, is this single rear monoshock mounted on a beautiful linkage, handcrafted, 3 bolts. Everything in there is almost like aerospace engineering. It's a really beautiful piece of work, and it's odd that it's all kind of hidden away in the gubbins, but it's worth looking in, finding that underneath this molded aluminium seat pan with the Triumph badge at the back, it really is a bit of a work of art. So on the back of that, we've got the 17-inch rear wheel. It's running a 150/80/17, again, the Avon Cobra. We're running chain final drive on a 6-speed gearbox, and then tucked away over here, again, it's up to the job. It's not a lot, but it's a 250 disc, and it's a single piston caliper, again with ABS. So summing up, this really is a beautiful, beautiful looking motorcycle. And the next thing we're going to have to do is get out there and find out how it rides.
What are my first impressions of the Triumph Bonneville Bobber? I hate the side stand. I just hate it. It's awkward, it's faffy, It's in the wrong place. My feet can't find it. It's a small thing, and it's a stupid thing, but these are the things that set your impression off straight away. Another thing, which I never thought I'd say about any motorcycle, is the clocks are too flat. Which even sounds stupid saying it, but the clocks are too flat, and it's slightly irritating. It feels like they should have a little bit more of an angle to them. You can read them all right, but it's an odd thing to do. It does look like there's some kind of bracket there which you can perhaps adjust them, so possibly have a look at that, or in the comments people will tell me I'm losing the place and there's no such thing. Nice rubbish. Yeah, as clocks that are too flat, but they are. So side stand there, clocks too flat. It doesn't feel super high quality. It's kind of all a little bit generic. The seat looks amazing, but it's very, very slippy. I'm wearing textiles. Perhaps if I had a funky pair of leather jeans on, which is what this bike is all about, then I wouldn't be sliding around the place quite so much. However, it does feel that if I drop the throttle, drop the clutch with a bit of gas, I would just end up sliding off the end and sitting on that very attractive rear mudguard. So there's another, yeah, okay. Heated grips. Why did you not spend a little bit more money and order the bloody heated grips? Because I'm going to open the visor, and I thought we were in for a treat today. Now I'm going to shut it again, because the weather's been picking up lovely. We've had 15 degrees. I thought, woo, Monday's going to be a good day. But no, this is Scotland. It's gone exactly the opposite. It's another freezing cold bobber video. The Indian Scout was the same. It was snowing with the Indian Scout. And that is absolutely what I can feel on my face right now. Snow. So there we go. Order the heated grips, for the love of God. When you walk into the showroom, spend a couple of £100. They're optional. So I'm glad we've got that out of the way, because that's probably all I don't like. Which means we can move on to the things that I do like. And there's plenty of those. The gearbox is snickety loveliness. Really it is. It's all snicky sticky boo. Down. Should be changing down going to a corner, but it doesn't mind. Beautiful. And up we go. The handling is phenomenal. It really wants to carve about on that thin front wheel. I wondered why it was set up in such an odd way, but it really works. So the gearbox is cracking. Bumping up and down the box is an absolute treat. You've got no problem with that at all, and the ratios are well spaced for the kind of riding you're going to be using this bike for. The brakes are perfectly up to the job, but really the gearbox is a delight. And crucially, for a bike like this, where you're going to find your pleasure at slower speeds, the handling is fantastic. It's very unexpected. When you look at the wheel and tyre setup and the chunky back and the very narrow fronts, you're kind of thinking, yeah, okay. But it really wants to turn in eagerly. It feels light, it feels super nimble, and you really start to trust it and lean on it a little bit, which I didn't expect at all with a bike like this. The engine thrums away underneath you, But slower speeds, it can get a little bit tiresome. I don't know if these are standard pipes or not, but when you're on the go and you're up and moving, it's perfect. It's a fantastic musical, mechanical companion. And the torque, it's just a big wave of torque. You don't notice any lack of power at all. 76 horsepower or whatever it was. It's not a huge amount on paper, but out there on the road, oh, interesting smell. Clearly treating the fields. Out on the roads, it's plenty, plenty, absolutely plenty. Apart from the seat trying to lose me, this is a lot of fun. Spent a bit of time with this bike now, getting under its skin a touch more, reveals all sorts of things that you may or may not like. It tanks along beautifully. This engine is phenomenal, but then all of these kind of heavy torque, oversized, lazy engines are fantastic. The Indian Scout Bobber, the BMW R9T, this Bonneville Bobber, they're all coming out of the same stable. What I did not expect was its eagerness to turn in, how nimble and light it felt, and just how quick it steers. It's a flighty, darty thing, not in a bad way, not in an unstable way. It just feels fantastic. Just kind of flicks out and then flicks back in again, as in, it's that sort of thing. Just out you go and back in again. It's fantastic. Gives it a lot of character. There's no wind protection, there's no fairing, there's nothing there, but I mean, you're not buying this bike for that kind of thing. There's not a lot of vibration through the pegs or the handlebars. They're well damped. There is a bit of a reach forward to the handlebars. One thing I personally couldn't live with. Oh, and off it goes. One thing I personally couldn't live with I don't think I would have this bike for that reason. If you're a bit taller, it's something to be aware of. Your pegs are quite high, so your legs are quite high, and because the seat's so low, then your bottom's low, and it basically means you've kind of you've got your knees up around your ears a little bit. I'm exaggerating, that's not true, but you've got that kind of feel where your knees are higher than your hips. I know it doesn't sound like much, but when you're then leaning forwards onto these flat tracker style bars, then it does make a difference, because you get a bit cramped, and that's something that takes away from this bike a little bit for me. I don't get that with the Scout Bobber, not that I remember, but we're going back to before November, and certainly don't get it with the R9T, which is a very relaxed and comfortable riding position for somebody of my height. It's lovely through town. It's lovely to look at the paint finish, the little offset Triumph fuel cap on the right hand side. The logos are dotted around. Everything's very triumphy, if that's a thing, if you can be triumphy. One thing that is deeply satisfying in this world of sometimes half-hearted engineering, this gearbox is lovely. Finding neutral is really straightforward. Couldn't find it on the CCM. Sometimes struggle a little bit with the BM just when it's cold, but this is a joy, and to jump up and down the box even though you don't need to is an absolute joy. The lever's a conventional affair, it's a cable clutch, does what it says on the tin. We've got a brake lever over here. The fit and finish of some of these kind of, the switch gear, the plastics, I don't know. It's up to the job, there's no question about that, but it just doesn't feel quite as expensive and sort of lustrous as we've become accustomed to these days. It's very forgivable. Because of this narrow front section tyre, you can feel the bike tracking all the imperfections in the road. That's a slight downside of its flickable nimbleness, but I think you'd live with it quite happily. A small triumph on behalf of Triumph is these bar end mirrors. They are fantastic. They've completely changed my view on what bar end mirrors are, because usually the damn things are just flapping around and they're a pointless waste of time and space, pure form over function. But these have adjustability, they're solid, they work, you can see what's going on behind you. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. All bar end mirrors should be like this. So then we're off, and you've got that thrumbling rumble like a Second World War bomber zagging along underneath you. It's a very good feel factor motorcycle. It feels good. You're happy to be on it. You feel like you're on something quite special, a little bit different, as if someone's put some time and effort into making it. Changing down and just letting the engine braking get you to the right speed, and then it flicks across like a willing puppy. You can easily get the pegs down, no problem at all. On this section, I think we just might. You can see clearly past there, so I think that's perfectly acceptable. It's very keen for a classic retro. It's just so unexpected when you look at it. You think, yeah, okay, great for straight lines, but what if I want to go out and scratch a bit? Well, with this, you can scratch that itch all you want. In fact, you'll find yourself just sneaking up there and having to rein it back a bit. There is so much to like about this. So there are some genuinely excellent choices of motorcycle out there now, and choosing a retro bike doesn't mean that you have to compromise on dynamics or performance, because they seem to have everything that we need in spades. So you can have the looks, you can have the handling, you can have the braking, the reliability, and the quality. It's almost like this particular category of bike, you don't have to give up anything. It doesn't have the same razor sharpness of a sports bike. But that's not what this is about. Even on a cold February day out to the coast, I've had a cracking time. And it's all thanks to this little Triumph. Thumbs up from me. So I like the little side mounted thing. Yes, that works for me. Key, yeah. No, jump on. Come on, do it the right way. Oh, look at you! You flash git.
That sounds okay.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Bobbida 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 bob. Oh, yeah. And I'm afraid you're now officially in this video on a Triumph, which is going to cause some consternation.
I think I can manage that.
Good.
Beautiful. Really nice bike, Nick.
Well, nice to see you.
Very nice to see you too, buddy.
Oh. So there we have it, the Triumph
Bobber Bonneville. What's to say? It's a cracking bike. The engine, it pulls like a train. Doesn't matter if you get caught out in a gear higher than you're expecting. There's so much torque, you can just ride the wave of torque. The suspension's a little bit crashy. I find it bouncing over a lot of the road surfaces. The road surfaces are not good, but it doesn't deal with it very well. As long as it's smooth, that's fine. That said, it wants to turn in, it wants to steer, it's light, it's nimble, it's a lot of fun, it's easy to chuck around. You can get the pegs down, no problem at all. It almost invites that kind of behavior. The fit, the finish, it's all of a very good standard, but it's not quite as good as the Indian Scout, which I feel is a better finished bike, better put together, probably better quality of materials than the Triumph. But overall, it definitely scores. It's the sort of thing you'd want to be seen on. It's the sort of thing you'd enjoy riding. Tank range is a little bit restricted, around 100, 120 miles. But by that point, you probably want to get off, move around, go and see some stuff, stretch your legs, because the seat height is low, which is good. It makes it accessible, but the pegs are quite high, which does mean that your hips and your knees are quite cramped. If you've got long legs, it holds you in a bit of a restricted position, especially as you've got to lean right forward to the bars in that sort of flat tracker style. So some things against, more things for at the price point. Thoroughly recommended. If it's your sort of thing and you like the look of it, then get out and buy yourself one, because you will not be disappointed. If you liked it, then like us, and if you want to see more content, then please do remember to subscribe, and I'll see you again in a week.